Hi everyone, hope you're all doing well, and today we're going to talk about Beyond Meat. I've not talked about this stock for a while, but I thought, you know what, it's probably due an update. Not too much has changed with the company, but a lot has changed with the share price. So from that point of view, I thought it was worth a little bit of an update. So yeah, we're going to talk about this one. I want to try to talk about a few more individual stocks that I've not covered for a while, and just a little bit of an update of them. We're coming into a new year very soon. So yeah, we'll talk about Beyond Meat. The only reason why I don't really talk about too many individual stocks nowadays is the views are just absolutely terrible. I did like a Hims and Hers video and did a bit of a deep dive into that one a while back, and it was one of those videos that kind of took like 5 to 8 hours to kind of make, you know, towards the top end of the 8-hour mark. And yeah, I think like my normal videos get about 3,000 views, and I think the Hims and Hers video like got 1,500, so it was like a serious drop off. And especially when you put that much time in as well, it's a bit like, oh, I could have done better things with that time. But yeah, I thought, you know what, Beyond Meat is one I want to talk about, do a bit of an update on it, talk about the big year coming up, 2022. 2022 is going to be a massive year for Beyond Meat. It's basically getting to the point where, for me, I'll be entering 2 years of holding that stock. So when it gets to about 2 years of holding that stock, that's when I want to see some sort of share price performance coming in. And yeah, 2022 is the year pretty much where I'll actually judge Beyond Meat and go, is this investment working out, or is it an investment where I look at it and go, this isn't going to work out and move on? So yeah, 2022 is going to be a massive year where I do judge Beyond Meat. So yeah, we'll go through everything today and we'll take a look. All I ask for is if you can hit the like button. Like button's not been smashed as much recently, so if we could get doing that again, that'd be absolutely amazing. But we'll look at Beyond Meat. So I'm sure most of you will probably have a good knowledge about Beyond Meat. They do plant-based alternatives to meat products, and they have quite a few products now. There's a lot out there, getting quite well known. Obviously, one of the first mover advantages, one of the market leaders here. And yeah, I think this is going to be a massive TAM going forward in the next few years, decades. And they are expanding a massive amount. They were mainly US based, now taking over worldwide. The EU growth, China growth. Yeah, I think this is going to be a massive company in the next few years. Now, just going on to the share price. The share price has been very choppy since the IPO. Since the IPO, we've had massive rises in the share price, massive falls in the share price, and recently, once again, a massive fall in the share price. So let's go on the year to date. If we go year to date, we came in the year at $125, and we are now 45% down at $68. Now, for me personally, is a stock that I started picking up around about the back end of last year-ish. So I started buying this around about $120, $130-ish. And since then, I've kind of been building a position throughout the year. But recently, it's taken a massive fall off, meaning that I am down a little bit on my position, as you can see here right now. Now, it is one of those that are really hard to predict, these sort of drops, just because it is been at this valuation for a little bit now, and also the progress the company has made, and as well as that, there was a bit of shock financials which caused this one to go down, which we'll be covering in a little bit. It's very hard to predict them financials that were going to come out, but generally the company hasn't had too bad of a year. Now, I'm going to say this, something really important is that a stock like Beyond Meat is all about risk to reward management. So at one point, this stock was actually doing pretty good, really. You know, this stock at one point we were up, you know, around about 50% on when we had this spike here, which a lot of it was to do with the Pepsi deal. And with a stock like this that is very volatile, it's very important to remember your risk to reward management. And if you do have a stock like this, and out of nowhere it does kind of have these big massive spikes up, always think about, is this justified? Now, this personally for me is a stock that I've actually sold a couple of times, not all the position, but trimmed a few positions for a good amount of profit over the last year. Now, if you didn't do that, then you basically get into a position where you've basically held a stock for a year's time, and all you are is down on that position. Now, in that time of holding that position, there has been times where the stock has gone up, and you would have been up very good amounts on this company. Now, it is very important that when you do have them sort of overreactions in the share price, when they go down, you look at the overreactions and go, maybe it's a buying opportunity. But it's also the same that when stocks go up. I think a few people have been victims this year of seeing a stock price go up and go, oh, this is absolutely amazing, I'm just going to carry on holding, or I might even buy more, rather than going, okay, same as when it goes down, is this a buying opportunity? But when it goes up, is this actually time to sell? Now, for me personally, even though I've been holding this stock for a year and it's not looking absolutely amazing at the moment, there's been times where I have had quite a bit of a jump in the share price, and when them jumps have happened, I've took really good amounts of profit off the table. So even though Beyond Meat right now, it's like, oh yeah, it's down and everything like that, there's still times where you would have made good money on it. And personally for me, it's a stock that I took some really good profit over holding this company over the last year, which is also really important. So just a point there about risk and reward management from trimming positions as well. But yeah, over the last year though, it has gone a lot lower, down to $68. Which is a big surprise to me. I never thought it would actually fall down this much. But just because the share price is down over the course of a 6 months period doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad investment, just means we are having a bit of a rough time on the share price point of view. The main thing is to look at how the company's doing on the inside. So the first thing is the TAM. Now I think this is probably going to be one of the biggest industries in the world in the next few years. At the end of the day, everyone needs to eat, and you eat multiple times a day. Now within multiple times you eat a day, guaranteed probably one of them is going to be a meat item. Now the big thing right now is meat items are two massive problems here. So the first problem is that having a lot of livestock, having livestock around and increasing livestock because there's more meat eating going on around the world, is that there is more livestock and that causes more pollution. What's the big thing everyone wants to avoid right now? Climate change. So this is a big massive problem here. Livestock is causing a lot of pollution, and what we want to do in the next few years is really look after the planet. One way to do that is by cutting down livestock and the amount of meat that we eat, because obviously there's a lot of livestock there that is created for meat eating. So that is one of the big issues that can be solved by moving to not even, and I think this is one big thing that a lot of people focus on when Beyond Meat. People think, oh, this is for vegetarians, it's for people that don't eat meat to have another option to eat, basically, which is true. But I think the big thing with Beyond Meat is going, Beyond Meat are targeting, okay, a lot of meat eaters out there, them meat eaters out there, could they potentially switch one meal a week to Beyond Meat? Could they do maybe 2-3 meals a week where they switch from that meat eating item to a Beyond Meat product? And that's the big thing. If everyone in the world switched to 1, 2, 3 Beyond Meat items, or maybe even other competition out there a week, that's going to make a big massive difference. First of all, like I said, it's from just general looking after the environment that we do have. And the second point is being aware that at the end of the day, every meat item that you have, obviously there's livestock created for that, but you eating that product is also causing a death of an animal, basically. Now, I'm pretty sure most people out there are quite conscious about that, and it's very hard to put this, how to describe it, but obviously you have the effect of the environment, but as well at the end of the day, and people forget this, is that when you're eating a meat product, there has been an animal killed for you to have that product. And if you have a conscience, you're probably thinking, and it's very easy just to see it when you're in a supermarket, pick it up and take it. But when you actually think about that process, there's basically been an animal raised and then slaughtered for you to have that product. Which, when you think about it, is that if you have the choice to have a product which saves that whole process, then surely from a conscious point of view, you would take that product to stop that process from happening. So you have the environment point of view, and just from the point of view of the animal that's gone through that process to have that. From them point of views, those are two massive things that can be helped with you switching to that meat alternative, even if it's just 1 or 2 items a week. And the big thing is, when it gets to the point of view that pricing, I think the one biggest criticism that I have Beyond Meat, and I think a lot of people have with it, is the pricing. Now, when they are building up 2 income streams, which one of them is a food service and the other one when you go to a retail and pick up one of their products for you to cook at home, the retail side of it isn't too bad, because they can get away with the prices with retail, because you would normally pay that for a quite expensive meal when you go out. It's absolutely fine. But the problem they have is with the retail side of it is when you kind of have the option of, okay, you can have the meat product here that is £4 for 4 burgers, or you have the Beyond Meat burgers, which is 2 for £4. Well, you go, I get 4 with that one, so I'm going to get that one. The big thing is that for Beyond Meat is matching up that retail price point, which they are aiming to do. And I think when the point of view comes to Beyond Meat, where they actually then get to the point of view where the retail price for the meat product and Beyond products are the same, is then you're going to go to the point of view, well, you can get this product here, which basically helps the environment. It's also hopefully better for you, healthier for you. And as well as that, the process of the animal getting there hasn't happened. You've saved, obviously, animals from getting to that point of view. Even if it's just 1 or 2 meals a week, if that happens, the TAM for this opportunity is absolutely huge. And I think that's what the big thing Beyond Meat has got to go for. If you think that it will happen, where in the next few years that process changes and it's pretty much a level pegging, I think that will happen, and Beyond Meat will basically enter everyone's diets, basically, at least one meal a week. And I think that's, if you are investing in Beyond Meat, that's probably one thing that you believe. And the product itself has pretty good reviews. Everywhere on the internet has pretty solid reviews of Beyond Meat. I've tried the Beyond Meat burger myself, thought it was very good. And also tried the McDonald's burger, which I'll talk about the McDonald's partnership in a little bit. Thought that was also very good as well. So the product itself, I think, is fantastic, and a lot of reviews out there are very positive for it as well. Now, there's two big partnerships that are going to come into Beyond Meat in 2022, and judging my investment will massively depend on how successful these partnerships are. First of all, we have the PepsiCo deal. So this was a deal that was announced a while ago, but this will start coming out in 2022. And hopefully this is very successful for Beyond Meat going forward, and that brings a lot of sales in. So that's something to keep an eye on. The next thing to keep an eye on is this, which is going to be massive. Beyond Meat and McDonald's. It's starting to look like this is going to come a big massive deal for Beyond Meat and could contribute a lot of money to Beyond Meat's revenue. So these are two partnerships in 2022 that you want to see them very successfully develop. If these partnerships don't develop, then that will probably be very worrying. If they do develop, then this will be very good for Beyond Meat going forward and should also create a lot of revenue in 2022. So those are the two big major catalysts to look out for in 2022 for Beyond Meat going forward. Now, one thing to be very careful of Beyond Meat is the amount of short sellers out there. Short percentage of float, 34%. It's a very highly shorted stock. Now, basically what that means is that short sellers are trying to make a lot of money from this. And quite often, stocks like this will always have a lot of negative press put out there and a lot of claims that are exaggerated. Now, for me, what has happened basically in the last 6 months is that Beyond Meat has brought some news out that probably wasn't amazing, but at the same time, has it justified the share price to lose this much? No. I think what Beyond Meat have done in the last few months probably deserved a Beyond Meat to maybe drop down to maybe $100, for example, but down to $6 to $8, no. Now, the reason I think a lot of this has happened negatively on the share price is because of the amount of short float that's out here and a lot of shorts that are exaggerating negative points with Beyond Meat. And because they've been exaggerating it and been allowed to do this a lot as well in mass media, sites like Seeking Alpha, this has caused a lot of false negativity with the stock. So even though I think Beyond Meat hasn't had maybe a great year, does it deserve to be down at these sort of prices? No, in my opinion. And I think that a lot of what you would believe in why Beyond Meat will be successful in the next kind of 2, 3, 4, 5 years still exists, and it could still be a very good company. So that's probably one of the major concerns, or one of the things you need to be really careful about when you do invest into this company. Now, financially, the company has done quite well. You'll see here the growth that the company has had. Now, this is where it's got a bit tricky for Beyond. Now, this ties in perfectly with the pandemic, as you can see. The company was doing very good, and then as soon as the pandemic started hitting, you'll see what's happened to the revenue. Revenue has flatlined. The reason why is the company has two sides of the business. It has retail and food service. Retail has still been doing okay, as you know, you've been allowed to go shopping for food basically, but food services have been very limited. Now, because food services have been very limited, Beyond Meat have lost half the company, and that's why the revenue has stagnated quite a bit here. Still moving a little bit in the right direction, but not as much as what it was doing. Now, because you have less supply, the prices of or the margins you have a decrease, and that has also led them to lose a bit more money as well. So basically the whole pandemic has really hurt this company, and that's why the revenue has slowed down and also the losses have increased. Now, we do want to see Beyond Meat start to move out from here and start moving in the right direction going forward. As this pandemic lifts, you want to see retail being strong, and you want to see that food service start recovering. So going into 2022, it is really important to see the revenue start moving back in the right direction and losses not being as much, because at the end of the day, we don't want a lot of losses like this because it's going to hurt the balance sheet as well. And going forward, it is forecast by analysts to start moving back in the right direction. And as well as the Pepsi deal and the McDonald's deal, the other major thing is obviously them coming in and also seeing that revenue move back in the right direction, and then losses starting to shrink back down again. So those are probably the key drivers for 2022 that is really important to watch for this investment. Now, even this year though, there has been positive news for Beyond Meat. Q2 was a really impressive month for Beyond Meat. There was the bounce back with the pandemic easing, and you'll see here the revenue jumped to 32% revenue growth. So the revenue was starting to move back in the right direction. Everything was moving really positive. Now, the only problem is Q3. Q3, the last quarter, was quite ugly for Beyond Meat. The reason why is because US retail was down and food service was down. Now, the retail does have hard comparisons to beat because everyone went shopping and loaded up the freezers and everything like that. So that does need to start moving back in the right direction in 2022. But the big thing is the food service. Now, this was in the previous quarter, in Q2, growing at a massive rate. What happened in Q3 is it stopped growing out of nowhere. So this is a massive thing that I need to keep an eye on in 2022, and it needs to improve. It needs to improve with obviously a lot of launches, but they basically said that a lot of fear was out there because of the pandemic and cases getting bad and everything like that. For me, I don't buy that. I think that for it to have such a reduction from where it was, something else is going on there. So for me, these are two of the really important numbers that Beyond Meat need to really improve on going into next year. But the really impressive numbers was in international. Even in Q3, which since Q3 has seen the share price lose an absolute ton of value, basically Q3 has caused 35% drop off in the share price. In them numbers, there were some good ones. International, retail, 168% growth, and food service, 117% growth. So yeah, 142% overall. So overall, it was still moving in the right direction, but the international growth was still very, very impressive, triple digit growth. So basically what we're looking at in 2022 is, can Beyond Meat still keep up this international growth? But at the same time, we need to see this start moving in the right direction next year. And that's probably one thing that you're really looking out for as a Beyond Meat shareholder. Now, one thing people do use is the valuation. People say the valuation is quite high on Beyond Meat. I've said, yeah, it is a little high, but let's not forget, this is a massive TAM, a market leader. And nowadays, it's not too bad. It trades down at a 7 price to sales ratio. And the reason why price to sales ratio have only looked really rich over the last few quarters, or maybe last 2 years-ish, is because what's happened is the growth has slowed down because of the pandemic. If it wasn't for the pandemic, then the growth would have carried on growing, then metrics would have dropped and it would have looked pretty cheap. Now, the great thing now is that you've got a company here that the price has dropped, so now the price sales ratio has dropped, but people aren't even factoring in the growth. If this goes back to growing at a really good rate, then this now starts to look quite cheap. So that's something you got to really consider, is that people use the valuation against it, but the only reason why the valuation stands out so much is because the growth has slowed down. Once you go back to the growth back at the rates that it has, doesn't look too bad at all for a company that has this growth. And also, this company is founder-led by Ethan Brown, which I think is a very good CEO, and he also does have a fair bit of ownership in this company as well. So the key things to look out for really for Beyond Meat in 2022, which I probably will be judging at the end of 2022 if this has been a good investment or a bad investment, is first of all, we need to see the McDonald's partnership play out and do well, the Pepsi deal play out and do well, and the next thing is to see that revenue start moving back in the right direction, and the most of that will be driven from the US side of it. So we do want to see this moving in the right direction. Now, most analysts are expecting 30% revenue growth. I agree, I probably want to see at least 30%, but I would be more happy to see Beyond Meat move back to growing a lot faster, because it needs to command quite high metrics. So for it to command high metrics, it needs to grow a lot faster. Ideally, if it can get to 50% revenue growth, that would be absolutely amazing. So we do want to see Beyond Meat coming in around the range of 600 million to 700 million next year. A lot of that will depend on the US side of it, the retail and the food service, and also the Pepsi and the McDonald's deals. And that's what I'll be judging on it. Now, if it does get to 700 million, that actually trades down at 6 times sales, which for a company like this, with the TAM that it has, would be pretty impressive as well. That is the big thing. So if it does hit these numbers, it will be a very good year for Beyond Meat. Potentially, you never know, but if it did do that, I expect the share price to move back in the right direction. If it doesn't move back in the direction, I will not be worried, because now at least the company is moving in the right direction, and I know at some point the share price will follow that. But for the share price to move back in the right direction, we need the company to start delivering. And those are the key things that will help the company deliver them financials and have a very good year. So yeah, overall, Beyond Meat is a company that has had a bit of a rough ride over the last 2 years. It's a company that has had the pandemic pretty much wipe out half its business. Going into 2022 though, there's only so long you can keep up them excuses before you need to start seeing it putting back in that growth. And unfortunately, it's starting to get to the point now where 2022 will be a big year for it, and I will be judging these financials and them going back to growth. They need to start doing it now. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Thought I'd give you that update on Beyond Meat. Personally for me, I'm not bought for a little bit. The reason why I'm not bought for a little bit is just because I think I'm happy with my position size and don't want to put any more cash towards that. But yeah, overall that's everything with Beyond Meat. Hope it was useful. If it was, hit the like button. If you're new, subscribe. I'll see you next video.